All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Crestwood Board of Education study session, Monday, April 15. I hereby call the meeting to order at 5:32 p.m. Mr. Secretary?
Okay, roll call. Trustee Janoon is not here. Trustee Saba?
Here.
Trustee Williamson?
Here.
Trustee Amon? Here. Vice President Baidoon?
Here.
The President is not here. Trustee Fawaz?
Here.
We meet quorum.
All right, thank you. Now we'll turn it over to Dr. Masalam for the potential 2024 bond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Board. So this presentation on 2024 bond, potential bond, is more of an update and next steps and where we're going. And each of you have in front of you the document that was sent to the bond committee, as well as I believe the board should have a copy of this from a previous update as well. So just to talk about where we are in the process and what's happening. The original expectations from the architects and the facilitators that came through and walked through our district was about 117 to 118 million. Through the series and the processes of reviewing this bond with the bond committee went through a process of identifying high need, medium need, low need. And what we did was we took everything that was identified as high need, as well as some additional components that we identified through the architects that are necessary that the bond committee is unaware of, like internal things when it comes to like some piping or different things as such. And through this process, we identified, so the bond amount was cut from 118 million down to 111.5 million. So there was a cut of about $6-7 million. Now, that 111.5 million includes air conditioning for the entire district, and that's full air conditioning for the entire district. It also includes expansion at Crestwood High School in the front, where we would redesign the front of the high school, would be adding a new facade, new offices, and then converting and adding more classrooms to the high school to support with like STEAM and STEM learning, so on and so forth. It also includes adjusting parking and traffic. We currently are in the process of a traffic study, so we'll have more details on that as well. And with the expansion of the air conditioning, one of the things we will be bringing to the bond committee, our next bond committee meeting is a week from today at 5:30, which will be the final bond committee meeting. And that final bond committee meeting will also include the architects, French and Associates, as well as Axiom, to be there to answer questions that the bond committee has. But in that meeting, we're going to share all this information and hopefully come to a conclusion, a consensus of what number does the committee believe they want to bring to you as a Board of Education at the April 29th meeting. I've requested from President Al-Zayat if that study session can start at 5 instead of 5:30, which will give us a lot of time to really go through this line item by line item. We're going to be requesting that about 3 members of that committee come and present to the board the process and why they believe that this is the consensus. Moreover, with this, one of the things that I'm going to be bringing to the bond committee, and we're finalizing the numbers right now, is if we do go full air conditioning across the district, what is that going to be in expenses of energy? Like how much more energy expenditure are we going to have in cost? Right now, it's estimated that additional energy expenditure will be between $15,000 to $20,000 a month with air conditioning across the district. But we're going to get that number closer before the next bond meeting because we want that to be taken into consideration. Because if we're going to be paying another $100,000 to $200,000 a year in energy costs, that's also going to play into our overall budget allocations.
Dr. Masalam?
Yes.
Did you look into if we did update all the fixtures and stuff, what reduction of energy? Did that offset it?
They didn't. We don't have that number.
Okay.
But there will be a cost savings, but it's going to be very difficult to identify what those cost savings will be. The other thing too is, I'm sorry. Yeah.
The list that they're compiling of what would be spent on, what needs to be fixed, the whole 9 yards, would that be available before that meeting or after that meeting? And I don't mean like just like for our sake, but for the community to be able to go in and look and say, oh, they want to do the roof, or oh, they want to do a window, or like whatever the case is. And then also is there even an option, and I know you talked about this before, and your estimate was like 200 million, but is there a thorough or firm, I guess, estimate for a new high school?
So the estimate for the new high school comes directly from the architects that have built new high schools. And they have said that a new high school right now costs $170 million. And that's,
And that's outside of the 60, 70 allocated for the district, right?
correct, correct. So if you were to build a new high school, what would happen is we would take away all the costs of the current high school, which would, I don't have that exact number, but I could tell you that if you would go from an estimate amount, you would go from, if we do the 111, you would go from 111 to easily over 200, if not more. So, and the other thing too is if you do build a new high school, what you have to keep in mind is we would probably build it on the current lot where we have the high school. So you also have the takedown of that, you have the, the tear down and a lot of different things.
Right.
It's 48 million.
48 million?
We
Oh,
would
yeah. it's
reduce
right here.
the bond by 48 and then
Thank
increase
you.
it by 175,
There it is.
roughly.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
Mr.
real
Mayor.
quick question. You had mentioned the new facade for the building at Crestwood, and I'm just looking at the numbers. I don't see it padded into the exterior. Just trying to make sure the cost analysis is, I see the gym and locker areas, obviously, which is a big part of this, but I don't see the cost for expanding forward.
If you look under remodeling rehabilitation exterior, under the Crestwood High School page, number 3, front facade enhancements, $250,000.
So, okay, let me make sure we're on the same page, because I
Yes.
thought you were talking about a big addition in the front.
It would be, yes, that's part of it. It would be $250,000. So for the front facade enhancements would be adding to the front, redesigning the entry and exit, as well as reallocating the offices. So the estimated cost would be about $250,000.
Wouldn't it be better to, because look, I mean, this is a growing school district, as you and I know, when a home sells with someone whose kids are out of school and they're senior citizens or whatever, and they're looking to get into a condo, somebody's buying it for 2 or 3 kids. Okay? We know that the next 10 years, the numbers are gonna inflate. Why don't we add a 2-story front facade to this building? Because I can see this high school getting to 2,000. Okay? Like, $250,000 is just, it's kinda just, it's really not much. I mean, I don't know what we're doing.
So with the front facade, we'd be adding classrooms. So currently where the office space is and everything, plus with expansion, we would be adding about 5 or 6 classrooms, I
For
believe.
250,000?
Because they'll be using the existing space as well. And then they would be building out office space.
Well, how much did it cost us to build 4 classrooms at the elementary school?
Well, those were brand new, so that was a little different because those were added onto the building.
Yeah? Aren't we adding on?
We'd be adding on, but we wouldn't be adding on as much for classrooms as we'd be adding on for office space. I mean, I can have the architects look at this again.
Yeah, we can talk offline. I just don't
Yeah.
think this is.
Yeah.
I don't think it's enough. I
Yeah.
really don't. Look, if
Okay.
we're gonna do this, we can't come back to the citizens in 7 or 8 years and go, hey, our buildings are too small. We need another 100 million to expand, right?
Understood.
Like, if we can add 10 or 15 million now and get the expansion we need, right? Because they're already breaking ground and they're already there doing what they're doing. The cost analysis is gonna be much better in our favor now than it would be in 7 or 8 years
Got it.
to expand this building and add another 15 or 20 classrooms at 2 stories with office space, right? I just think if you're gonna do it, look at all aspects of this in your next meeting. You're not doing enough. That's my opinion. I'm
Got
sorry.
it. No, that's understandable. That's understandable.
Yeah, I'm looking at 250,000 thinking like, what's that gonna do? We just spent 11 million, $12 million adding 4 classrooms.
Again, I'd like to see a new school, so I think.
I am 100% behind that, but here's the problem,
Even
Settle.
if we pull the community, I mean, if a bond's gonna pass for 120 million, I'd rather we did 200 million or 250 and got a brand-new school. Because like you said, the people buying in this community, the existing homes in this community, it's embarrassing.
I'm not,
I mean, my elementary school cafeteria is bigger than Crestwood High School cafeteria, and that's elementary school. And they're old.
I'm not, I don't disagree with you, I just don't know if the citizens would go for that, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, we can try, but that'd be a dream of mine, honestly, to build a new high school would be great, right? My kids are 4 or 5 years, they're done, it's not about my kids, it's about my grandkids. You know, I want my kids to live in this community, I want their kids to go here.
Yep.
But having said that, I mean, look out here. How many people do you see? None, right? You're gonna gauge people in an election, in a ballot. And they're not here to talk about some of the things that are most important to them, which I've been preaching for 4 years, get involved, do more, be a part of this process. Instead of just saying no to things without understanding what you're saying no to. If your property values are gonna drop, everything around you is just not gonna be worth what it's supposed to be worth if the buildings and the facade of the buildings that your kids go to school in. We have one of the best educational systems in this entire area. I'm not saying that, that's what's being said in US Weekly News, right? So I'm just saying, we've gotta catch up. I don't disagree with you, but we just have to gauge the public more. I'm sorry if I'm being a little aggressive, but it's a little frustrating, that's all.
No,
And you said that list would be provided for the,
so what would happen, so what I will do is that's why we're having, this conversation, is because then what I'll do after this meeting tomorrow is I will reach out to our architects and say, I need a breakdown on if we go 2 stories in the front, also additional more classrooms, so we have those numbers. What will happen is, after the next bond committee meeting, once the bond committee determines, okay, this is everything we want to do, because they might go through these lists and say, forget this, add this, do this. They might all be, and say, they might all come back and say, you know what, we want to support a new high school. I mean, they may. Then what will happen is, once that's cleaned up, the board will get that entire list before the next board meeting. So you'll have that list literally probably Wednesday prior to the next board meeting. So you'll have enough time to review it, because then when the committee comes in at that next board meeting, the architects as well as Axiom will be here. And that's why I requested for it to be a 5 o'clock start, so we can have a good 2 hours to go through and discuss it, to go by the line items, ask the questions that the architects and the builders can answer better than I can, and then it will give the board a very much more stronger understanding of the direction. And look, at the end of the day, I said, with this bond process, we are at the will of the board. If the board says to me, hey, we're going for this much and we want these, we're gonna do it. We're not gonna tell you no. We're gonna do it. And we're gonna do everything in our power to make sure, to get it communicated and to get it passed.
would this be available that Wednesday for the community and not just us? So they can review it and they can have their input, like Mo said, maybe they'll actually show up to the meeting and provide their input, having this as a foundation?
Definitely, because it's gonna be a public meeting. It'll be in the board packet, but we can send it out and say, hey, very important board meeting coming up, discussion on bond, so on and so forth. I mean, we can strategize that, of course, 100%.
So
And-
Dr. Masalam, I
yeah.
think in regards to your timing for the bond proposal is very aggressive, which is appreciated, right? I think with what trustee Sabo is requesting, I think it's gonna be really hard to do that in a week because it's a trickle effect, right? If we're not gonna lay the HVAC system on the roof anymore because we're gonna have a 2-story building in the front, then it's gonna change that, and then that's a new quote and a new estimate and so on and so forth. So just be prepared. I don't know how you wanna play it, option 1, option 2, and timing, because I know April 29, right? Or
April 29th is next board meeting.
Right.
Yep.
And then the bond meeting is Monday next
Yes.
week, right? So just FYI, I don't know
Yeah.
how you wanna play it.
So there'll be 2 things. First, I'll make sure that what the architects will do is they'll get us an estimated amount to take to the bond meeting. They're gonna be there to answer questions. Then that amount will be more solidified before the board meeting. So it won't be as if it's something brand new, the amount may change. And one of the biggest components too of going 2 stories is adding an elevator unit and the ADA compliance and all that, they have to add that all in as well. So, I mean, yeah, we definitely can, have that added in there, and we'll work on it. And you're right, it's a very aggressive timeline, but I just, as I think the board is aware, if we're not aggressive with this, it's never going to happen. And I want to say, I give a lot of kudos to everyone that has been attending to the committee meetings. I know board members have been there, and even if they're not at the meeting, like if they have to miss it, they're reviewing everything, they're sending questions, and it's really nice that, and hopefully, I'm going to invite all of them to the next board meeting, so that they can be here. But I'm hoping that when we have the 3 or 4 individuals of whom come up and present to the board, it'll also shine more light to the community that the community has been involved in this process. This isn't board members or the superintendent or anybody in a back office doing it. No, this has been a process that has included multiple members from the community. I think we invited 60 people. I think we've averaged about 45, 46. And we've had some people who contacted us and said, can I be on this? And we're like, yeah, come on, come on down. And so I think it's been positive thus far. And the reason why we're being aggressive is, the idea is that once we have a vote by the board, hopefully in June, that we're gonna move forward, then we start our campaign and we get everything situated and we get out there and we start campaigning this and we start everything we need to do in August. We're not gonna wait until November. We're gonna start in August, and it's gonna be all hands on deck.
I do have a couple more questions. Questions. If we did build a whole new high school, where would the kids go while that school was being built?
So they would still attend the current Crestwood High School, because you would build it in the back or in continuation of it. And then it would be in phases.
Okay.
So that's something that we would have to sit and work with the architects and the contractors on, okay. And they would develop it in phases where you're not gonna take away from the children's education, but at the same time, be in a safe environment.
You have virtual now too, that would be a huge help. Plus, you could speak to neighboring high schools if, kids wanted to do that in the interim. We could probably even utilize WISE in that regard too. But, I mean, I think there's a bunch of different options. There's a lot of options.
Can you never bring up virtual again, please?
Yeah,
It's temporary.
Don't ever bring up virtual again.
It would be temporary, okay, until we got a new school.
God forbid.
I think everyone would agree to that.
But again, if the board decides that that's the direction you want to go,
so it is possible. Okay.
we would work out all of those logistics with our architects in the building firm.
So my next question is, if we have questions on an individual line item, when is the time to bring that up? Just as a board member, or would it be today? Would it be next meeting, or would it be the 29th?
We could do it today, we could do it now, you could send it to me in an email, we
All
could
right,
talk about it on the 29th, it's open, whenever you feel.
So I have a huge issue with the charging stations.
Those were taken out,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Issue taken care of.
those were taken out.
Those
were one of the-
pay for them. You have 2 stations and everything.
Those were one of the line items that the committee said, take out.
All right, okay. Well, I mean, it's still in here, so that's
Where?
why I was. I think Highview.
It should have been taken out, if it hasn't, it'll be adjusted.
All right.
Let me check. I know most of the things that were taken out already, because we've been looking at this so much.
You wanted a what? You said I got an F-250 diesel. I don't think I'm gonna have a Tesla.
If there's an X next to it in priority 3.
Oh, I took it.
yes.
It's electrical number 7.
Yeah, if you see an X on number 3, it means it's gonna be out.
There's not.
What number is it?
It's number 7.
On Highview?
Oh, on the X.
Yeah,
Oh,
it should be X.
well, I thought that was a priority.
Are you at Highview? Yeah, I
Yeah,
see it.
I
It's
hear you.
Xed out.
Okay.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, priority 3, it means it's an X out.
Okay. So that, that's not how we, priority
Yeah.
3 just meant it was gonna be, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, of course. And we did that on purpose so that people can see, so they can cross-reference, because
Gotcha.
we want the committee to see what was taken out, So the cost analysis that you receive are all priority ones and priority twos.
Okay.
Because there are some things in priority twos that we may take out later in the process based on the recommendations from the architects and the builders on whether or not they're really needed. And I know there's gonna be other things that, you know, we will adjust through the process as well.
All right, okay.
Do you have any other questions, David?
No, that's my questions, thank you. Now you can continue your presentation, because I still started the whole, I interrupted you. So.
One of the things that we are gonna look at if the bond is passed, or if it's not even passed, is potential solar. Because with the technology today, we could potentially put solar panels, and if we, specifically at our high school, that could save us a lot of energy costs. And there's a lot of grants out there that we can utilize for that. So we're waiting to see what's gonna happen with the bond, because if it passes, then we can roll that into the bond. And that would be something that we would look at down the road. To look into solar right now wouldn't make sense, because at the end, once the bond process is completed and we know what we're gonna do, then we can bring in solar companies to see our plan so that they can tell us what we can actually do. So that would be a potential savings down the road. And that's where we are. I mean, we're moving along. I'm looking forward to Monday's meeting, and I'm looking forward to bringing a proposal to the board, and I'm looking forward to campaigning for this, you know, come August, because I will tell you, it will make a real difference for our community, our students, and our schools.
Does anyone have any other questions for Dr. Masalam? All right, thank you, Dr. Masalam.
Thank you.
With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
All right, motion adjourned by trustee Williamson, supported by trustee Amen. 5:54. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.